Variety. It is 8:40 on this Thursday, the 22nd day of July. By this time next week, we will have a brand new member of Congress, and that's always kind of exciting here in North Texas. It is the 6th District, and we had Joe Barton on the other day who filled that seat for 34 years. With his exit came the vacancy that Ron Wright filled and did so honorably until his sad passing, creating the vacancy that we now fill. We had a May 1st election, big old scrum with a bunch of people, and the top two vote getters were Jake Ellzey and Ron's widow, Susan Wright. Jake joins us as we take a look at the closing days of the race. Welcome, sir. How you doing?
Good morning, Mark. I am excited that we got 2 days of early voting left and one election day.
And in that time, lots of interesting decisions to be made. And in a primary, which this is not, but it looks like one because it's Republican versus Republican, for those of us who are Republican voters, we find that often there's a lot of similarity between beliefs. And so it winds up being differences of style, differences of resume, differences of approach, differences in leadership flavor, whatever you want to call it. And sometimes it becomes, as it has here, and this is the first thing we'll do, and then we'll talk about all those other things. It becomes about an ad campaign that absolutely tears the lid off previous records of shameful, scurrilous lies. You've seen the mailers. I guess the first ones were the ones that said you were a soft borders Joe Biden liberal. And now comes the most recent one, a picture of you and Nancy Pelosi that you're trying to steal this runoff election. Which ones of these are from Susan and which ones of these are from Club for Growth, to your knowledge?
There were 3 from Susan before the May 1st election. Since then, it's all been from Club for Growth. To my knowledge, the Wright campaign itself hasn't spent any money since May 1st. It's all been from Club for Growth to the tune of a total of $660,000 with everything that they're doing. But you know, as I believe, if somebody's backing you, you stand up and say if it's false and negative, you just don't do it. And you know, I'm a Reagan Republican. I don't believe in talking about other Republicans. I believe our brightest days are ahead. And if we're going to run this country the way it should be run, starting in 22 when we take back the Congress and 24 when we take back the White House, we have to do so with a united front as Americans, as patriotic Americans, with a brighter future ahead of us instead of the divisiveness which we currently see exhibited in this race.
And I think that's very high-minded, and that is the way to go as the years pass. But in this moment, just a quick thing about Club for Growth for me forever. They're fiscal conservative folks, and I've spent most of my time agreeing with stuff that they stand for. You probably have too. Did you insult their parents or something? What's behind this?
I don't know any of those people. I did meet David McIntosh at CPAC, and we spoke briefly and seemed to have a pleasant conversation. I don't understand what the negativity is about. If it didn't work, they probably wouldn't do it. But it seems to be a path that they have chosen. It's an incorrect one. It's flat out false. And like you said, the last one about the stealing of the election, that was off the charts. That was off the charts wrong. And I don't know how anybody can stomach that kind of stuff. I am accountable. I've been in the military my 20 years. I was accountable for every action I took. I'm in the state legislature. I'm accountable for every action that I take and every vote that I take and every day that I'm there. And I'm willing to stand up for my own record and have a conversation about that. To date, nobody will do that. And let's debate about this. But that hasn't happened, and I don't expect it will, because if it's indefensible, it's indefensible, Mark, and they won't defend what they know is patently false.
Have you guys done some joint appearances since, that came down to just two of you?
No, sir.
Wow.
No. Well, we had a couple of forums where we were given the questions beforehand, but no debates or anything like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we did too.
All right. Well, then, through the history of this, when there were 23 of y'all and now just two of y'all, have you noticed any actual policy differences of note? Things that you bring to the table that she doesn't, or ideas that she has that you don't, or just whatever. Are there, heaven forbid we should look at this, actual belief differences between the two of you as you understand them?
I think on your show, she literally said there were no differences, and we haven't discussed. We've spent more time talking about the negative stuff than we have about the vision for our future. So it actually hasn't even come up that often lately because we're playing whack-a-mole with these terrible mailers for Club for Growth. So we can't address the issues that are facing us, like why the border is a national security issue and it's a humanitarian crisis. Let's talk about that. But that seems to get lost in the shuffle for these ridiculous mailers at Club for Growth. I will say this: they use good pictures of me, so I'm grateful that at least.
Well, you're very photogenic.
They think.
However, when you're joined at the hip with Biden in the first one, with Nancy Pelosi in the second one, and listen, we had Dan Crenshaw on the other day who hopped into this race for the purpose of coming to your defense. Rick Perry has endorsed you. It would be great to be able to examine differences between candidates in terms of how they would govern. Let me share something that I've had some people say to me, and that is that whether it's you or Susan Wright, the votes will be good, the beliefs will be solid, but that while Susan is a woman of great accomplishment, I don't want to take anything away from her and her husband. I mean, I can't tell you the high opinion that I have of them. I have nothing against them whatsoever. But if this time is a time for a leader, somebody who's going to rattle the cage, that might seem more like your skill set.
I am willing to rattle that cage, for 20 years serving in the military, going into combat, losing friends in combat. I always mention Clark Schwedler's name. He was a young Navy SEAL who passed away without a family, without a wife or children, who passed away our last day in Iraq. And I am everything that this country is because of men like Clark for 250 years who have shown the courage to stand up for what they believe in and stand up for this country. And my service will honor him and what he has given, what he has lost, and so many like him, so many veterans these days after 20 years of war. You're dadgum right, I'm going to stand up, because what is going on right now in the last 6 months has served only to weaken our country, not strengthen it in any way, shape, or form. And when the spiritual leader of the Democrat Party is a socialist bartender, 30 years old from Brooklyn or Bronx or wherever the heck she's from, yes, you're dadgum right, I'm going to stand up against that.
Anytime I have a candidate for anything, I always like to sort of project forward and ask, what would you be doing if you held the job now? What would be your thought on this January 6th committee that they're trying to cobble together?
McCarthy's doing the right thing by saying we're out. We're going to form our own, because once you didn't allow Jim Jordan, who is going to get to the bottom of it, what scares Nancy Pelosi. If you don't let Jim Jordan on that, and he was the appointee, then McCarthy's doing the exact right thing by saying we're going to do our own commission, and beware of what we find here. So he did the right move by pulling out completely, but that's unprecedented too. And as he said, this isn't Nancy Pelosi's house; it's the people's house. And if he wants to appoint anybody to that commission it's already 8-5. This isn't even close. This is all a sham, and it's a politicized event. And so he's doing the right thing, and I admire him for standing up. Jim Jordan's actually absolutely the right guy to be doing this. Man, nobody works harder or fights more than that guy to get to the bottom of the truth.
The Jake Ellzey business card right now reads state representative, and you had won that seat, and Ron's passing and the timing of that meant that you were fresh out of your victory party before it was time to announce for this. And there are some people who have said, well, Jake, how can you run for Congress and still ardently, conscientiously show up in every way for what you need to do in Austin? Tell us how you've balanced those things.
Balance is probably not the word I'd use. I think I burned the candle at three ends. But I did show up to work, and I ran both. And when I wasn't on the floor or dealing with issues at the state level, then I was running my campaign. I passed 8 bills as a freshman, and people will tell you that I showed up to work, and I have a 97% voting record in the Texas House. No matter what anybody says, no matter what is online, just because it's online doesn't mean it's true, folks. And you can contact the Texas House clerk and see how many votes I had. And there were 1,810 votes this session, Mark, 1,810. And I made 97% of them. And so I'm very proud of the record that I sustained. If anybody can do this, it's me. You know what's hard, and I said this once before, what's hard is being on an aircraft carrier without any port visits for 9 months, fighting at sea, fighting against COVID, and fighting against our enemies. This is not hard. I can do both, and I proved that to my constituents that I can do it, and I would do so again. The call to duty comes when the call comes. And in life, it usually doesn't happen the way you plan. It ain't Disney World.
It's truth. And in our last couple of minutes, a final word or two about Austin shenanigans. I've been talking to a growing number of people who, like you at the moment, are Republican members of the Texas House, and they take a look at Governor Abbott's special session call, which contains all kinds of wonderful things, and they wonder, why is there not on there the notion of a ban on these grotesque surgeries and conversion therapies for so-called trans kids? And Governor Abbott told me on Monday, no way that would have passed the House. A growing number of actual Texas House members say, give it to us, we'll pass it. What's your view?
Yeah, I think so, too. And in fact, I can't remember the name of the number of the bill right now, but I just co-authored that bill yesterday. Additionally, I authored House Bill 217, which says a judge cannot change the sex on a birth certificate, which is the new thing that Travis County is trying to do so that boys can play in girls' sports. I authored that bill. No, I believe that's child abuse. Especially if it's before the age of consent. This is a terrible thing. So yeah, I think that we're going to pass that through the House. But there's so many other things we've got going on that we must pass for Texas that eventually we'll get them done. And I'll tell you this much: even if I get elected to Congress, until I take that oath, I'm going to be voting on these very important bills so that they get passed in the Texas House.
Last thing on the gender thing: so you do not subscribe to the theory that we have a Dade Phelan speaker problem blocking really conservative things in order to protect his Democrat support base?
Absolutely not. No. The heartbeat bill, the 1927, we had the most conservative session ever because Dade Phelan was speaker, and I think you're going to see some of these bills coming back up again, especially on the gender modification and ensuring boys can't play in girls' sports.
The website is Ellzey, Ellzey, Ellzeyfortexas.com, Ellzeyfortexas.com. Jake Ellzey, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time, and we'll be talking soon one way or the other, I feel.
Thank you, Mark.
And
great talking to you.
That is Jake Ellzey. Susan's welcome on the show, and that overture either is out or Lord knows she knows now and can gladly come on. We welcome everybody. We are glad to do so, and it's 8:52.